Welcome back, folks, to Battle Hardened San Diego. We've got round 5 paired up for you, and it's going to be another spicy match. We've got Brodie Spurlock against Jake Torres.
Who's Brodie Spurlock?
You haven't heard of him? Bit of a big name in Flesh and Blood. On the Zen, usually on Azalea, Brodie Spurlock, talk of the town, has the ability to teleport around the world to attend every single Flesh and Blood event in existence.
Man, I wish I had that ability.
Yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it?
That is overpowered.
Yeah, you could go hang out with your son for a little bit and come right back.
Hey, joke's on you. He's going to be here in a moment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're going to be hanging with
who
little
needs
Callum.
teleportation when your kid's got it?
He's got to get his on-stream cameo, you know?
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, looking forward to this matchup. We do have another Zen up against Uzuri, channeling his inner Shoma.
And just kidding, I absolutely know who Brodie Spurlock is. I'm one of his top pupils, I guess I would say.
Yeah,
on
the
Azalea.
Yeah,
the other player, however, is another teammate of mine, Jake Torres. And he filled out our little questionnaire. He's not John Zapata. He's Jake Torres. He's wearing a NASA Kennedy Space Center shirt, and he looks cute to boot. His ultimate guilty pleasure is that he is secretly a yapper. Don't tell Yapper Senior or Junior. And in case you're wondering who those people are, on our team, it's Alex Vore and his brother Matthew Vore. I'm sorry, no, Yapper Junior is Jonah, I think, Jonah Overhaul, who we saw in round 1. Anyway,
everyone on Team AGE is a yapper to me.
Yeah, well, myself included, I guess.
Oh yeah,
I can't get enough of yapping. And Jake secretly loves it too, and he's going to be our Uzuri player in just a moment, seeing if he can take down the mighty Brodie Spurlock, who has since doffed his bow into the closet and brought out his tiger taming Kakara to see if he can tame some tigers on his
making the
foes.
decision that Azalea doesn't quite cut it in this meta and proving us right. Zen coming out 4-1.
Yeah.
Looking to make his way into top 8 if he can clinch the next couple games.
Yeah, and he's had some really intense matches throughout this day. He was in a Zen mirror that almost went to time against Fuzzy Delp, who was our Fuzzy Delp was our round 2 on stream, I believe.
Yeah.
Another Zen player, and
that is not a match you expect to go to time.
No, but Brodie Spurlock is one of those players that really likes to take his time, think his way through every single play line, and sometimes that takes a while.
Yeah.
So both players are shuffling up here. Jake Torres is sporting the old team sleeves with Anthony Pham, Andrew Rudin, Zachary Wallach, and of course, team captain Chris
those are great.
front center.
I love that photo.
Mm-hmm. And I think that might be Horsepool in the foreground right there. It's half of his face, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah.
I think that's him, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. How's Horsepool been doing? Have you seen him lately?
It looked like he wasn't doing so great last I saw. Closer to the bottom tables. Don't expect to see him in the top 8 today.
Gotcha. Reality Refractor is not the truth today, unfortunately. We'll see what he brings tomorrow.
Yeah?
He's always got something up his sleeve, doesn't he?
He might just be running it back. I know he really loves the deck.
Yeah. Looks like we've gotten to our players a little bit early. They have gotten the go-ahead, but we caught them at the beginning of their shuffling process. So let's go ahead and take a second and talk about prizing, Michael. We've got a 2K prize pool for today. We've got a gold cold foil legendary, plus a PTI, not just for first, but also for second place.
Yeah, getting up to that winner's bracket is very lucrative today.
Absolutely, and a lot of these players are chasing that PTI to get their qualification for the World Championship in Osaka, because a lot of us are just going. You don't not go to a FAB event if it's in Japan, right?
I'm going.
Yeah, me too. Are you going? I didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy I'm going to get to see you there.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun.
Oh, that's going to be amazing. All right, wow, that's the best news I've gotten all day. Anyway, yeah, that's our prizing. Let's see if our players are ready. We have equipment presented. We've got stuff in the pitch zone, which means a game of Flesh and Blood is being played.
Yeah, looks like Uzuri's taking this turn 0, starting out with a Spider's Bite, swinging for 1.
Jake Torres is such a clean player. I say that a lot on stream, and usually when I talk about clean play, I just talk about somebody who's like no nonsense. They're very hard to read, but they know every single interaction, and they present it so beautifully, not only for the streamer, but also for their opponent and for themselves. When you play cleanly, I've found that you just make less mistakes, and you don't miss anything on the combat chain.
Point Goblin.
Point Goblin.
Brodie
Here we come.
Spurlock just blocking that dagger out, nice and clean.
Here we come with pick to pieces. Brodie getting a pretty nice combo piece into his graveyard early, which could be fetched later for that fabled double bonds turn.
Yeah, the only card that would have been better to block here is, uh-oh.
And here comes Bonds of Ancestry.
So he's got the combo set up and ready to go. Flick Flack coming out.
Before the card that is banished by Uzuri is revealed, just in case it was a Command and Conquer. Brodie showing some very clean play on his end too. We've got no surprises in the equipment suite for either player. Brodie is bringing in the Tiger Taming Kakara for this matchup, usually because you expect those Zephyr Needles to get popped by an Assassin nice and early, and these are games that can go very long.
Yeah, valuing the persistence of the weapon here over the potential spiking power of the needles, and I do like that decision here from Brodie Spurlock. Starting off the chain with 100 wins.
It's not 100 yet. This is just one, but it's
one
coming in for 3.
single wind coming in for 3.
One wind.
We're blocking it with the sensor.
That'll cover it up nicely. Jake is the first person I've kind of seen bring in Sensor, at least on stream against Zen today. Can be a very powerful card if you name something in the likes of Descendant Gustwave or Bonds of Ancestry or even Crouching Tiger.
Yeah, even Crouching Tiger. It's a very valuable ability. Now, you'll need to know what the Zen is planning on doing in order to make a good call. Sometimes you can just feel it.
Mm-hmm. And with 1 Descendant Gustwave and 1 Bonds of Ancestry already out of Brodie's deck, gives Jake a little bit more of an informed decision if he's going to deploy that sensor. Jake blocking with some really critical disruption pieces might telegraph the fact that he's got a stealth card in Arsenal and 1 other of those disruptive attacks in hand, or maybe the hand is just a bit of a clunker.
Yeah, I think the Assassin player just really likes to block when possible. The disruption does not need to come off the back of a 5-card hand. In fact, 2 is plenty.
Yeah, Uzuri says 2 cards is all I want. Oftentimes, I want to be blocking with 2 extra cards. Brodie deploys the Art of War in response to combat trick Jake out of an arsenal. Kind of an interesting use of it here.
Yeah. You know, it seems really good on the surface, but foregoing an arsenal to deal 1 damage and get rid of an Art of War from your deck? I'm not so sure. I have to sort of, you know, I think Brodie's better than I am at this game.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting choice.
It is, especially because he's leaving himself without an arsenal.
Right.
I guess he could be feeling a little bit vindicated because what was found in Jake's arsenal was a piece of arsenal disruption. One that Brodie probably would have had to block awkwardly to protect, especially because he hasn't transcended yet. We see a red Descendant Gustwave deployed here. Oh my goodness, we found the natural Descendant Bonds line off of a 4-card draw. That's 2 that he's drawn this game already.
He would have really liked to have an Art of War here.
Sure.
Maybe he's okay with this. He couldn't have known he would have drawn it up, but Art of War is for these turns. If you can line those 3 cards up, it gets nasty.
It's interesting, too, because if Brodie also drew an additional 3 block, then he could have blocked that Leave No Witnesses with a card plus Striders, and then had not only an Art of War, but an Art of War basically for free.
Yeah.
With an extra 2 cards. So it's interesting. I tend to defer to Brodie Spurlock as well for all things flesh and blood, but we can speculate. We're good enough for that, I think, Michael.
Yeah. I remember, I think it was sort of like the lunging press argument. Like, oh, you can lunging press the CNC, but what do you end up doing? You trade a card for a card and 1 damage. So you don't really net anything. And we saw that here. He didn't get an arsenal.
Yeah.
And now he's playing a Descendant Gustwave Bonds line with a 4-card hand and no additional spice.
And he could be thinking that, like, all I want to do is string together enough turns where this Uzuri player isn't doing anything to me. And ultimately, he did do that. Like, Jake didn't do anything on his turn. He simply Arsenal passed.
Right.
And he would have had to defend that Art of War. You just can't know you're going to draw a natural Descendant Gustwave. I think Brodie might be thinking, like, it's time to tread water until I can transcend. Then I can start thinking about deploying this fridge and going super far.
Yeah. And it looks like chat has identified that Shred was one of the cards in Jake Torres' hand, so that wouldn't have played out well for Brodie if he had kept it.
Indeed.
Again, Brodie wouldn't have known that, so there's a lot of play lines here that it was a very interesting interaction, and maybe that's what makes Brodie a better player than we are.
Indeed.
Thinking about things like that.
Brodie chipping in a little bit of damage. Still hasn't hit that 10-point mark against Jake. Here comes Bonds of Agony. And perhaps Jake is even in a better spot with that shred because that is one of those 3 attack reactions that he needs to activate Bonds of Agony.
Yeah, Bonds is such an interesting card in Uzuri. When you play it in new, it's kind of like, okay, they've got the 2 reactions in the form of 1 card. It's probably going to get boosted up. With Uzuri, you never really know. Is this just sort of like a stealth card getting swapped in, or does he have like the nuts in hand, and is he going to pump this up?
Now, this is going to depend a lot on the context of Brodie's hand. We see a Mauling Chi, 100 wins, sink below.
That's pretty important.
And that all you got.
Yeah, so he has 2 D-reacts here. Probably feeling pretty good declaring no blocks into this would be my guess.
And that's interesting. Brodie has shown us that he's running 3 different D-reacts in this deck because we already saw the Flick Flack on turn 0. So Brodie might be in for a longer haul than we typically expect Zens to be.
Yeah, this reminds me a lot of Brian Gottlieb talking about how the internal testing of Zen into new really turned into a much more defensive deck list. And it looks like Brodie is taking a page out of the developer's book and having that kind of reaction to an assassin-heavy meta. Bringing those D-reacts into Uzuri and presumably new as well.
So Brodie probably going to be safe here. Oh, but he also found the Just the Nick. And we're flicking one of those daggers nice and early. Jake electing to throw the Spider's Bite first because the Scale Peeler is the more powerful of the 2 daggers when your opponent's fridge is still live.
But we do know that Brodie has 2 defense reactions in hand, so this 6 damage is unlikely to connect.
This would be 9 now, though.
Is it 9?
Oh, yes, it is, because Just the Nick plus the buff from...
Of course, and the shred. Ooh, that's not enough.
That is spicy. Even with those 2 D-reacts, Brodie
and this is
still
the
gonna
kind of thing that
hit.
you really don't expect Uzuri to be able to pull out. I mean, 2 of those are cards from hand, and then he's deciding to give up a dagger this early.
Which means that the card hit by this Bonds of Agony is likely going to be 100 wins. We've seen a lot of them already played or banished by Brodie. However, Jake can use this opportunity to clear the graveyard so Brodie can't fetch any more 100 wins, or this might just clear the entire deck out of them at this point.
Yeah, really, really important connection here. Jake feeling pretty good about that.
It will also give Jake something that he can... Never mind. I thought we were playing new. We're playing Uzuri. Uzuri doesn't do...
No.
doesn't play blues from Banish? What am I talking about?
Just a good, clean assassin play.
Just a good, clean Bonds of Agony.
No tricks except for the 100 other tricks.
Yeah. So Brodie elects to just keep these defense reactions in hand. And Jake might raise his eyebrow at this. He might say, I can get rid of all sink belows in my opponent's deck?
Yeah, does it target reactions? I'm not sure if it specifies
Does it specify
cards.
actions, actually?
Sometimes it does. I'd have to read the card.
I know Persuasive Prognosis. Well, that's for the life gain.
Right.
You might be right.
I'm
You might be right. It
I'm
has to be an action
I'm
card.
just thinking about how we could be wrong, because sometimes those details matter.
Yes, indeed.
So we'll see what he decides to
Well,
choose
Jake
here.
knows what that card says without a doubt. So
Chad is saying you can take any card. Thank you for the clarification.
thank you, Eleanor Maybird. Sink below is the card.
And having seen no other sink belows, I can see the value in ripping all of them out of the deck.
And this is something that's really nice to do early because we're talking about how it's kind of unique that Brodie has brought in a bunch of extra D-reacts against Uzuri. Now Jake gets to see exactly how many.
Yeah, and it looks like that number was 2. So
only 2 sink belows.
Not getting as many as he would like.
And perhaps that's like solid sideboarding strategy on Brodie's part for this exact situation where the Bonds of Agony hits and Jake doesn't get as much value. And they're having a good laugh about it right now.
Yeah. It is interesting to see Brodie opt to take the damage there. I can see the value of still having a hand to play back and then arsenal one of the defense reactions. If Jake had opted to pull the 100 wins, Brodie would have been IP'd though. Or I guess he could pitch and swing a Kakara.
He could swing a Kakara, arsenal to sink below. I think Jake's just really happy to not have to contend with a sink below. Yeah. And also, defense reactions are much less threatening when you know that they're there.
Absolutely.
And also, that's another non-chi card in Brodie's hand or in his arsenal. So Zen is really good at putting together super wide turns, but when one of those cards is non-effectual on offense, it's a little bit more manageable. Here comes our Kakara. Brodie electing to keep that that all you got at his disposal, which is actually kind of a clean way to cover up a scale peeler, isn't it, Michael?
Yeah. No, I think the inclusion of these defense reactions is very smart into the assassins. They really don't like to see you blocking their daggers and then just getting the card right back into your hand. Those daggers are important.
Again, Brodie Spurlock has not transcended yet this game. So, Traverse the Universe is not quite a card that's online yet. And Jake deploying a Command and Conquer, saying, try to that all you got me now.
Yeah, knowing the arsenal is a defense reaction is really nice right now.
Mm-hmm.
We see an Art of War in Brodie's hand. This is not the turn he wants to be disrupted.
Granted, we know that that card in Arsenal doesn't have any offensive potential, so it's quite possible that he says, here, I'll block with the Striders and see if I can finally get one of those pesky Transcend cards into my hand. And
yeah, the first one he saw got banished.
Yes, indeed. And it was the best one, too, the Path Well Traveled. Let's see if we can take a look at what Brodie's got. Cards are flying 50 miles an hour, but
yeah, he's
I'm going to see if I can pick one up.
Really good at flicking those.
I believe
Art
it's a
of
Tiger
War.
Form Incantation is the blue.
Okay.
I might see a Preserved Tradition. That's kind of what I'm trying to identify here.
Yep. And just as you thought, no blocks, taking 6, getting rid of that useless defense reaction.
5 because of the Strider Reprisal.
Oh, thank you. Oh, and he did block with the Stride. I didn't catch that.
Gaining that Tiger because we got...
Exactly what you thought. Yeah, he's got the Art of War, and he's ready to strike back.
Now, this is going to be a very different Art of War than the first one we saw, isn't it, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. The first one, not
all
all that
that flat
effective.
for you, huh?
Yeah, you know, I like to see more than 1 damage from my Art of Wars.
So here we go. We banished the Tiger, essentially for free, to get 2 more cards. Art of War has replaced itself and gained a new card. And also ostensibly given +1 power to every single one of Brodie's attacks.
See if we can see what he's got here.
Brodie taking a gander through his graveyard. Normally a telltale sign for these assassin players that they've got a codex, but Zen's just going to find things in his graveyard here and there all day. So that's just run-of-the-mill stuff for our Zender man.
And there's
yes,
his Transcend.
It is indeed the Preserved Tradition. And Wind Chakra is going to see the fact that Brodie has played another blue card. Of course, Preserved Tradition is also going to see a blue card. But in this case, Wind Chakra is going to give an additional buff to Brodie's next Crouching Tiger. The buff will be +3.
And it looks like he might have a Descendant in his hand. I can't quite make it out. But he did just go grab a Bonds of Ancestry from his graveyard and put it right back into his deck. Maybe looking to find that off of the Chi this turn.
Certainly, if we've got a Descendant in the hand, that's going to be the line. That'll be what we find out the Zen activation. I see a Flick Flack. That's not what we want.
Maybe that's...
I see a Flick Flack and a Mauling Chi.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's less than stellar for this Art of War turn. So I guess it's hard to tell what our best combo card to find here is. Because we can't go for Chase the Tail. We don't have enough Tigers to make that useful. It's going to be a Tiger Swipe. Just get another, basically, 4-go again in the mix.
Makes sense.
It is a little bit risky, though, because if Jake decides to block out that Tiger Swipe, then Brodie won't get value off of playing that Mauling Chi, which is probably destined for that last resource floating. I can't imagine that Jake is going to see that Tiger Swipe and throw his blocking cards out willy-nilly before that is deployed.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so we see this Tiger coming in for 5, 3 +1/+1, thanks to the Chakra played at the beginning of the chain. And 6 damage on the Tiger Swipe. 1 from Art of War, 1 from the Shuko, and 4 from itself.
6 go again. Very threatening on hit here, getting another Tiger. And unbeknownst to Jake, that on hit would be not only an additional 1 from a Crouching Tiger, but also an additional 5+1 from Mauling Chi. It's still deployable by Brodie, just doesn't have the on hit. Flick Flack has got to be destined for this arsenal here. Otherwise, Brodie has IP'd himself. Yeah, and here we go. Mauling Chi, 4/6. No on hit here.
6 is what it would have done with the on-hit anyway.
Mhm.
So nothing to scoff at. 25 to 25. This was a pretty good turn from Brodie.
Yeah,
Evening
and
things out.
yeah, and Jake still has a pretty massive fridge to face down. And you're in kind of an odd situation here when Brodie passes over to you, because unless you have something that you can do that's really disruptive, it's oftentimes better to just do nothing and not give your opponent the opportunity to block with that traverse, get the chi back, and do this all over again.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Saying pass is a really good way to make sure that Zen doesn't get to set up the 5-card, 6-card hand that he wants to.
Jake says no, though. Here comes Death Touch.
Death Touch is also a very good thing to do with a tunic counter, though.
So it's all going to depend on the context of Brodie's hand. We see a Transcend card. We see a Bonds of Ancestry. And also an Ancestral Harmony.
Yeah,
this could be a nasty turn, Michael.
I think this has to be.
Honestly, does he even need to block with Traverse here? Because we just go Ancestral, Transcend, and then we've still got the blue 100 wins to fuel the turn.
I could see him holding back on that and just sort of taking the 8 here. I'm assuming 8 if he gets the Blood Rot Pox. There may be actually value in an inertia. Does Jake know that this is a defense react in Arsenal?
He can't know.
Yep, okay.
I would imagine maybe Brodie deploys it here. Maybe he doesn't care.
Right. Huh. Interesting. So he goes for the Blood Rot.
And Blood Rot's always the safe choice, because if Jake were to gamble on the inertia token, and that card in Arsenal is not a defense reaction, then he's punished massively.
I've been saying I'm due. Let's go.
You're saying I'm doomed, says Jake, and he hits a huge attack off that
Ancestral Harmony.
Yes, thank you.
I got you. We're all tired
So
here
many
today.
ancestors, so many harmonies, so many. Yeah, there it is. I forgive myself. Ancestral Harmony, Tiger Swipe is the hit.
Yeah, that's a huge hit coming off of this. And he gets to Transcend.
Also filter the hand a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Rising Sun, Setting Moon, such a good card, even just for its effect.
It's kind of like a pseudo Gaze the Ages.
Indeed.
Goes right back to the hand, and in
We
this
were actually
case, gives an extra resource.
Yeah, we were talking about that a lot during the last game. How Gaze the Ages is kind of the OG Transcend card, isn't it?
Yeah, it is the first one to you play it. No, goes right back.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly what this Transcend card is going to do in the form of an Inner Chi. So now, when is Brodie going to give Jake the information? Seems like it's now. Probably going to find a Descendant Gustwave, because we know he's got a Bonds in hand.
Yeah, this is going to be a really tough turn for Jake. Kind of like the stars aligning Zen turn that you really pray he never gets to find.
Yeah, and this is so rough, too, because Brodie didn't even have to use a piece of that super valuable fridge in order to do it.
The only saving grace is that his Arsenal is a defense reaction.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly going to hurt no matter what.
Incoming Kakara for 2. Jake's about to get whacked in the head with a staff.
Followed up with that Tiger for 1.
1 indeed. Probably followed up by our Tiger Swipe.
How'd you know?
Eeny, meeny, miny combo. This Tiger Swipe is coming in for 5 because the Shuko is active.
It would be 6 then for the Ancestral
You're
Harmony.
so right, Michael. I was testing you.
Ha! Thank you.
We have a relevant on hit here.
Yeah, relevant on hit into a boatload of damage afterwards. Jake Torres blocking with 2 cards, with 2 cards left to stop what's probably like 15 damage coming up.
It's really interesting that Brodie elected to go show Jake the Descendant Gustwave early on in the turn. When he already had the Tiger Swipe showing, I wonder if there's a line where he sends the Tiger Swipe first just to keep the context of his hand away from Jake.
Right.
And make Jake question whether or not Tiger Swipe is the more relevant on hit. That being said, Zen doesn't have a whole lot. It's mostly just damage. Just curious.
Yeah, that makes sense. And here it is, the dreaded Descendant coming in for 4.
Surely there's no bonds on the back of this, right, Jake? Surely you're not dead here. Unlucky.
Coming in for 5.
This see what Brodie decides to find here. Probably going to be at least 8 damage leaking here.
And he goes and grabs another Tiger Swipe.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. I wonder if he had any mauling cheese left. I feel like with the 1 resource floating, that should be the target.
Huh.
It's possible he doesn't. He has, I believe, blocked with 1 and played with 1 that I have seen.
That could be the answer to that question.
Because that would just be an additional 6. Instead, Tiger Swipe is just going to be an additional 3 because it won't be followed up by a tiger, preceded by a tiger, I should say.
Right. Checking the graveyards, dotting the T's, crossing the I's.
Whose eyes are crossed?
Exactly.
Not mine, surely.
I wasn't sure if you were going to catch that.
Having a quick look at the graveyard is Brodie Spurlock, as Jake is in the think tank about how much damage to take on this Bonds of Ancestry. Seems like the answer is going to be 5.
Oh, coming in for 3 because there's not a tiger. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that is okay. That
Big
is
difference
now
between the
interesting.
6 that would have come from the
Very-
Mauling
yeah,
Chi.
Okay.
Once again, it is possible that he's out of them.
And maybe out of 100 wins as well.
Yeah, I definitely think he's out of red ones.
Okay.
We have seen 1 banished to Bonds, and I know we've seen another one played. I think that adds up to 3 automatically.
I mean, Bonds going and finding a 3-power attack off the back of an Ancestral Harmony, so it's really just a 2-power. That's the best he could do. I mean,
it is a
it's-
surprise because he. I don't believe he has any Chase the Tails in the graveyard because that would be a better option too,
Yeah,
right? That would
yeah.
be 5.
There's it's just kind of one of the flatter Bonds I've seen. Still a very powerful turn as we see Jake Torres taking an additional 3 down to 12.
Jake, I'm sure, thanking his lucky stars that it isn't something like a Mauling Chi or a
Yeah.
Chase the Tail.
Yeah.
But again, Brodie still has the opportunity to pop off just by blocking with Traverse. So it's like, it seems like this is a bit of a reprieve for Jake. That combo turn wasn't that bad. But Brodie didn't use any of his onboard resources for it.
At this point in the game, Jake is really going to have to pray for a brick of a hand from Brodie, which could happen given the number of defense reactions he's playing, but he may have gone through enough of them at this point to not have to worry too much about it.
And it is super painful on Jake's side of the board to take
did he
all that
just
damage. He just Arsenal
bluff?
passed.
No. Did Brodie just bluff about to play his D-React in Arsenal, or has that come out since?
I didn't. Well, no, it hasn't come out yet.
So that's
it's
a-
still
that's
the
a
flick flag.
D-React.
It is.
Did you see him just?
Did he bluff it?
Oh yeah, he pulled it out. Looked like he was about. No, let me think about that. And he put it back. Really cool play. I love that.
Maybe we're mistaken about what card that is, but
I don't know. Then he just bluffed us too. If it is a D reaction,
Yeah.
'cause that was convincing.
I'm pretty sure we had seen a flick flag. We both thought so, right?
too. He's
Yeah.
looking at it again. We'll have to see. I mean, he didn't play it out during the last turn, right? So
right.
why would he suddenly play it?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I hope Jake
think-
lives
I
long
think
enough for us
he's-
to see what that card
he's
is.
bluffing us a little bit. Very cool to see.
Brodie Spurlock, really smart guy.
That's what I would do if it was a D react.
Oh, I know. Michael loves to play poker in this game
Yeah.
as much as he can.
We're bluffing our way to victory as much as possible.
I love those lines too, honestly. I mean, coming from Magic, it's like this instant speed thing was the last possible moment I could do it, right?
Absolutely.
Fab is no difference. Ooh, Brodie Spurlock tapping the nose, getting some inspiration from inside his noggin.
Hit me with that stick.
Jake says, "Don't you hit me with that stick.
Stop it.
Stop hitting me with that stick." But Brodie says, "I care not for your face." Here comes another stick. 2 go again is the ask. The answer, only Jake Torres knows. Let's see what Jake is working with here. We've got an Amnesia, which is one of those super disruptive attacks against Zen. However, Brodie Spurlock has already played one heck of a lot of Descendant Gust Waves and Bonds, which is the cards that care most about Amnesia.
Yeah, Jake Torres only 12 life to work with at this point in the game. And these weapon swings, the 2 into 1, it's just really hard to block this efficiently. So you can start to see even just like a little bit of a grindy game plan come out of Zen once the life totals get a little bit lower.
And that being said, Jake has done an excellent job at keeping life parity this game. We've been talking a lot about how Brodie still has this huge fridge and resources to work with, but Jake is still keeping this game pretty close.
Yeah, 12 to 17 is good.
I mean, Brodie is drawing hot. There's
Yeah.
no question about it.
The tough spot is not the life total, but rather the fact that Brodie has full tempo. And Jake is going to have to find a way to break this tempo, hopefully either through a brick or some form of disruption that he gets to keep and use against Brodie. Because as long as he's giving up his entire hand every turn, it's hard to keep those life totals from gaining even more distance.
Descendant Gust Wave, 4-1. Jake accepts. Here comes Command and Conquer. Unlucky for Brodie that Crown of Providence was donated to the block of the Kakara just to get rid of that arsenal.
Yeah. Now we've just got Vanilla 6 coming in.
But hey, when you got CNC in hand, you don't not send CNC.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, I was just talking about the brick. This is a pretty lackluster turn from Brodie. He just sent a 4-card 9.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of break that Jake needed to start to think about taking back tempo and disrupting even more. That D-React and Arsenal from Brodie seems to be clunking things up for him as Jake hasn't had an opportunity to attack to get that out.
A little bit, but let's pontificate a little bit, Michael. What if Jake had been able to ascend an attack on that last turn, say a Leave No Witnesses or something like that?
Sure.
Brodie would have a card in his arsenal he doesn't really care about. He would have been able to block with Traverse, and then he would have been able to go he would have been able to go Ancestral Harmony, Descendant. He has one more copy of Bonds of Ancestry in his deck because he put one back with the Tradition Chi card.
Yeah.
And then that turn would have been absolutely insane. So this is another one of those instances where doing nothing is the right answer.
And now Jake has 3 cards, but look at this. CNC into another. This is the second time he's played CNC with Brodie putting a D-React in the arsenal.
And we finally get to see if it's
he doesn't want to give
flick-flack.
3 cards here.
No, certainly not.
This could be a Traverse turn, but I imagine Brodie would much rather have an offensive card in arsenal when he decides to commit the Traverse.
Yeah, especially if you are committing the Traverse to protect that card. Jake Torres doing what assassins do. Blocking a lot, sending a little, but with a lot of disruption on the back end. Holding 1 card in arsenal here. Brodie has the opportunity to block with his fridge. Let's see what he's working with, shall we, Michael?
100 wins.
Ooh, this
Tiger
is
Swipe.
a bit of a lackluster hand here.
Chase the Tail, excuse me.
Yeah, 2 Chase the Tails, mind you.
Ooh, that's really tough to work with, especially post Strides of Reprisal. The boots.
That would be the boots. Yes, yes.
Yeah, you don't want to see these cards when you don't have any tigers to work with.
What we haven't seen yet, though, Michael, is any aspect of tiger bodies. I assume they're in Brodie's deck, and he would be able to fetch them off the Zen ability. Granted, that's not like the greatest Traverse the Universe use. However, your opponent is sub 20 life.
I mean, Traverse is a way to get at least 1 tiger, and it looks like Brodie's taking the full hit here, going down to 11. We're now at life parity, and there's the flick-flack.
We were right, Michael. We're not crazy.
Yeah, he was doing some cool bluffs with that earlier. Starting with a blue 100 wins.
Fear my wins.
Fear my wins, says Brodie Spurlock. And this one will likely, in the link step, receive -1 from a drop in the ocean.
Yep.
So Brodie retains all the damage. In case you folks at home didn't know you could do that, you absolutely can. Once damage resolves, there is one more step before the chain link resolves. At that point, you can play an instant speed thing that gives a debuff to your own attack and gain its value. Sorry, not lose any of the damage off of it is more what I'm thinking.
And transcending, gaining that tiger is very important when your hand consists of 2 Chase the Tails.
Are you playing that from hand? What you grab?
Although you want... and he also found the
Aspect of Tiger Body.
Thank you.
Yep.
I got tongue-tied. I tripped over my own tongue there.
You've got
I
my
d- I
back,
did.
I've got yours.
Yeah, pass that over to you to finish up. Thank you. Yeah, so he's going to be able to get that second Tiger. Very, very important to get the value of the Chase the Tail.
Chase the Tail is a one cost 7 here.
Yeah, very strong when you line it up. More difficult to get to line up than many of the other combo cards. As you can see, it requires 3 pieces to make work here.
An aspect of Tiger Body is that piece that pulls that combo together.
And the extra resource from the 12 petal Kasaya coming in very clutch as well.
And Brodie really lucky that he didn't find any of those Chase the Tails on some of these earlier turns, because creating that second Tiger would have been a tall ask given the context of the other hands that we've seen from him so far.
Now, I imagine he's going to be able to arsenal that second Chase the Tail, and I expect to see a block with the Traverse the Universe next turn.
If Jake decides to send anything at all, because he's going to have to donate a lot of these cards to the defense.
If he doesn't block any, or if he doesn't attack with anything.
He's thinking about blocking. Let's see what it actually is. It's a shakedown. That card says block 3.
Yep, and there's
Here comes
the
Crouching Tiger.
Crouching Tiger.
And that's going to be for, it should be for 4 because of Shuko.
I think he ate the Shuko with
Oh,
the
you're
first
right.
Crouching Tiger.
You're right. Because 100 Wins Blue comes in for less than 2. Another 3 block donated to the cause. Jake Torres is still treading water at 8 life when Brodie Spurlock is still sitting on Traverse the Universe.
Yeah. This is tough. 5-card hand. He's got a chi.
Jake's got to find a way to get some disruption in here.
Traverse maybe not all that useful this turn since he's already got what he's looking for.
Yeah, and it looks like he's very resource rich. He's got an inner chi and also a levels of enlightenment, Michael.
An all blue hand with the levels.
Healy boy.
Oh, that is just crippling. At this point, Brodie might just donate the Traverse the Universe to the Scale Peeler here.
I don't anticipate that, but it could happen. I think that he probably wouldn't be able to get a good use out of it.
Because he
given
could.
How many blues he already has?
At that point, he could smell blood in the water and basically be like, as long as you don't send a massive piece of disruption out of your arsenal, I'm fine. If he takes the Scale Peeler here, all of his equipment is blocking for 3. If he were to donate the Traverse to this, he's still got 1 card block with the rest of his equipment.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
And that's if Jake has something good to send.
Yeah, the thing that he would fear the most in this spot is a CNC or a possibly a Death Touch. Any 6
Weakest link,
power,
perhaps?
yeah, the weakest link would be very disruptive. So the Scale Peeler is asking a very important question from Brodie, but he could still block with all 3 of his equipment and a card and be in a pretty dang good spot.
And he's got a perfect card to donate to the block. I think he's got a he's got a CNC in hand, along with those 2 chi cards, as well as the levels of enlightenment. He'd really like to not give up levels, because that is going to be a really good card with 2 modes turned on. I feel like we're in a situation where he needs to donate an equipment to this block.
I could see no blocks here and then donating the rest as well.
I will.
Tough spot, though. Neither of those feels good.
Mm-hmm.
We can see Brodie having a think. I think he's really weighing in on what's better, knowing that giving up all of his equipment could be.
It's also tough because Jake still has that pesky piece of equipment, Flick Knives.
Yep.
And so if Jake really wants this to hit, whether Brodie blocks it or not, he can say, I'm flicking this, and the on-hit will be active for my next attack.
We're talking to chat in real time.
So gives up the Kasaya here.
Both players having a good laugh. Playing clean, but also respecting the heck out of one another.
Does have blade break? Blade break 2, yeah. Okay. Aha, you buffed my dagger. All part of my plan.
Pascal Wings is correcting me in chat. My mistake. You cannot flick the active knife. And it is just a death touch from Arsenal. Jake would love that to be something a little bit more disruptive. But alas, just 6 and probably a blood rot.
Yeah, 8 damage, nothing to scoff at when you're sitting at 11.
Which, hey, Jake is still keeping this game really close. You got to hand it to him. This has been
This
has been really tight so far, and he has faced some really nasty turns from Brodie.
Yeah, the cards really lined up for Brodie this game, and the fact that he's sitting where he's at, these sort of life spreads without using his traverse yet, is very, very scary. And Brodie decides to just take it, doesn't decide to commit the traverse right now. May even decide to pay for the blood rot given how many blues he has in his hand. I'm not sure yet. We'll have to see how it plays out, but
It depends on what he does with the levels, because he probably wants to get both of those blues into the pitch zone.
Yep.
In order to get both modes active. So it kind of depends on what he draws off the levels if he does choose that mode.
Yeah. Going down to 3. And yeah, there's the blood rot.
Excellent choice by Jake Torres. Blood rot is the one that you always get value on no matter what the context of your opponent's hand is.
It's either a card that they pitch or 2 damage, and both of those is pretty valuable.
You know what I'm about to do. Oh, hit me with the stick. Full stick.
Full stick, says Brodie Spurlock. That stick says to go again.
I'll block said stick.
Ooh, blocking with a Codex of Frailty.
Jake finding his first codex of the game, and it's donated to the block.
Yeah, you don't want to use that on blocking
So
if you don't
sad.
have to.
Respond with pass over your, I think it matters, crown.
Okay.
Brodie decides to banish an equipment piece,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting because your opponent is running codexes, so
Right.
you would think you would hit a card. We're at a late stage of the game. It probably doesn't matter.
Yeah, just going for the first thing he sees.
Looks like mode's chosen. Oh, first we're activating Zen. We find aspect of Tiger Body. Now we turn our gaze over to the levels of Enlightenment, where Brodie now has 2 blue cards in the pitch zone, and we'll be able to activate 2 of those 3 modes. +2, draw a card, and go again.
Sorry, what was the
Oh
modes
my gosh,
on
I
that?
Brodie getting a little bit ahead of himself. Jake saying you probably want to resolve levels of Enlightenment before you continue, I would think.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, something is wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are the modes you picking?
So this is here. I don't know why I turned face down. That was like a weird last one. Go again and.
Ellie Bird has a really good point in chat. Brodie is choosing to banish the equipment cards so that Remembrance can't fizzle
Yeah,
his Transcend.
smart.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. You smell blood in the water. I know, dude.
Jake saying what we're all thinking.
And this is for 1.
Brodie Spurlock is smelling blood.
Yeah.
Tiger for 1 here. Off the back of the
And
Tiger Taming Kakaro.
the chase the tail is so painful to face at this point.
Especially when, as we said, aspect of Tiger Body is sitting ready to be played. To get the chase the tails, ultimate value.
Jake Torres, 2 cards in hand. I believe they're both codexes. Not quite enough to block as much as he'd like. And
They're both codexes, is that what you said?
yeah, I saw it in chat. I didn't see it myself, but someone mentioned they might have seen 3 total codexes.
That's
in his hand,
devastating.
which is not the way you want to draw your codexes ever.
Codex is a great
assassin.
card, but not when you're blocking with it.
Right. There's the block 2s.
3. 2 floating.
Taking 4 here into 3 into 3 is too much damage.
Into 4, Shuko
Jake
still active.
cannot survive that much damage, right?
It'd be 4,
Using
3,
the
4.
tunic and blocking 2 plus a codex.
Jake giving a wry smile as he reveals the second codex from his hand.
And then we've got 3 and 3 coming in, which I believe.
This one will be 4.
Oh
for the
no, the
Shuko.
Shuko. So he's just gonna. He really would have liked.
If it is the third codex, it's over for our fair Jake. There it is.
Yeah, going down to 2 life, and then C and C. Yeah, very
Within the
very
follow-up.
over. Well played from Brodie Spurlock.
That was a strange hand.
Very well played from Jake. Things didn't really break his way on that one.
Yeah.
But that's the way it goes. When Zen draws hot, he's fierce. When he draws not, he's still pretty fierce.
Yeah, we didn't really get to see very much disruption coming out of the Uzuri a couple really useful CNCs, but they kind of were pulling out D-reacts anyway that weren't affecting the offensive turn on the
Yeah.
other side. So Brodie's just kind of happy to let him go.
Yeah.
You know, he was able to blow up the arsenal twice, and both times it was a D-react. It almost makes me wonder if the D-reacts were the right choice into this matchup.
Yeah, indeed. I mean,
Could have just been the way the cards fell.
Yeah.
Certainly don't doubt that a D-react at the right time can be life-saving into an assassin. But given the way that it played out, I think most of the times he would have loved if it was just some other go-again card.
100%.
So well played by both of these people. We're going
Indeed.
to take a quick 15-minute break before we get into the next match. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you all shortly for round 6.